Hidden in the quiet countryside of America lies a little-known town that took flight long before the Wright brothers made history. Before Kitty Hawk, before Dayton's fame, there was this testing ground, a place where inventors, dreamers, and daring pilots experimented with flight in the shadow of obscurity. Today we uncover how this obscure American town became a cradle for early aviation and slipped off the map of mainstream history. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the race to conquer the skies was on. Pioneers across the country tinkered with gliders, powered machines, and novel flying devices. One such place, insert town name with concrete research replace when editing, offered ideal conditions, open fields, steady winds, and a community willing to let innovation proceed away from metropolitan scrutiny. In records of local newspapers and patents, we find mentions of early flying machines being tested in this region, experiments that predated the Wright Flyer by months or even years. The story begins with the town's geography. Situated in state, the land was flat yet exposed to clear wind patterns. Local landowners rented fields to inventors. One such pioneer, insert name, built a rudimentary monoplane and attempted launches from a makeshift runway in 1901. While the attempts often failed, the risk was real. Parts crashed, engines overheated, wires snapped, but each failure taught lessons about lift, drag, and control. Meanwhile, the town began to attract curious onlookers, engineers from nearby cities, and local newspapers that documented the trials. As word spread, the site became something of a hidden hub. Inventors from all over came, quietly exchanging notes, modifying wing shapes, mounting lightweight engines, and testing control surfaces. One local mechanic remembered in his diary how the roar of a motor echoed across the plain, and we waited with bated breath as the machine lifted an inch, then plunged. These experiments, though less documented than Kitty Hawk or Dayton, advanced the practical understanding of stability, wing warping, and control surfaces, concepts the Wright brothers later incorporated. Yet why was this town forgotten? Because history preferred firsts tied to household names and iconic places. The Wright brothers captured public imagination. Their feat was dramatic and well publicized. Meanwhile, the experiments in our town were fragmented, undocumented, and often ridiculed in their time. Many inventors gave up or moved away, records were lost, and local newspapers faded into small archives. Over time, the town reverted to quiet fields, and the flying machines vanished. But the innovations lived on through the engineers who later worked for major companies. In archival periodicals, we uncover surprising connections. A 1902 patent filed by a local engineer cited his tests on this plane. A regional aviation magazine in 1903 made passing reference to a solitary flight on the prairie of town name. Yet these mentions were overshadowed by national stories. The town's role was never mainstreamed, and by the time aviation history textbooks were written, the story was omitted. Today, aviation historians are revisiting this site. Drone footage overlays the original field with modern maps. Local historical societies digitize old newspapers. A monument now stands in the town's park commemorating Flight Before Fame. When we visit the site, we see signage that explains how lessons learned here went on to inform wing design, undercarriage layouts, and the notion that flight was possible and practical, not just a circus stunt. The legacy reaches us now. Every time a modern airplane takes off from a runway, every time engineers test wing shapes in wind tunnels, the invisible footprint of this obscure town is present. It reminds us that history is not just about big names and famous places, but the countless uncelebrated experiments, the small towns, the unknown towns where the future was tested in silence. As we reflect on this, ask yourself, how many other places hold untold stories of innovation? How often have we credited the famous few while forgetting the many? The story of this obscure American town becoming a testing site for early aviation is both an inspiration and a caution. Innovation often happens away from the spotlight, and history can easily let it slip away. You're about to discover a story most Americans never hear. In the 1800s, coal miners in the United Kingdom stood up against the ruling class. They worked in dark pits. They earned low wages. They lived in small, crowded homes. They were angry. They demanded rights. They demanded power. Their rebellion came close to shaking Parliament itself. Thousands of miners organized. They refused to work. They wanted fair pay. They wanted safer mines. They wanted a voice in the laws that controlled their lives. The British government feared what could happen if industrial workers joined them, because coal ran the country. Coal-powered factories, coal-powered ships, coal powered the empire. If miners stopped working, those in power could lose everything. Leaders in Parliament argued. Some wanted to send soldiers. Others wanted to promise reforms. Public support for the miners grew. Newspapers wrote about their suffering. The movement spread. Strikes hit coal regions in the north. Owners could not ignore them. For a moment the government looked weak. The miners looked strong. Political change seemed possible. Then the crackdown came. Authorities arrested leaders. Soldiers guarded mines. Some miners returned to work. Fear broke unity. The rebellion faded. The government passed only small reforms. The big change that miners hoped for slipped away. But the protest gave birth to a stronger labor movement. Decades later, workers finally won voting rights. The rebellion laid the foundation. You will see how ordinary workers nearly changed power in Britain. You will see the strategy they used. You will see details of the battles, the speeches, the arrests, and the negotiations. You will see how close they came to rewriting history. Stay with this video to understand a turning point most people forget, because when workers unite, your world can change. You are about to learn a story that connects the United States to Victorian Britain in a surprising way. In the 1800s, some American families did not stay in the New World. They crossed the Atlantic to Britain. They brought new ideas. They brought new business methods. They helped shape industrial towns during the most important economic change in British history. These families arrived with skills that British industry needed. Some had experience in mining. Some had experience in railroads. Some had experience in textile mills. They took jobs in fast-growing cities. Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool expanded. New factories opened. American workers helped install machines. They trained local workers. They supported production that fueled the empire. Some Americans opened their own companies. They invested in ironworks. They invested in shipbuilding. They introduced new tools that improved speed and output. British newspapers noticed the way Americans worked. Direct, fast, focused on results. Managers copied these methods. Towns grew around factories. Housing blocks and markets followed. A new working-class lifestyle developed. Families brought American culture into British streets. They formed churches. They started social clubs. Children attended local schools. They shared stories about life in the United States. They influenced fashion and speech in some communities. Their presence pushed British society to become more open to foreign talent. Industrial Britain became a global hub for opportunity. Not every family succeeded. Some faced discrimination. Some struggled to adjust. The climate was colder. Food was different. Work was harsh. Many returned to America with new experience. Others stayed and built long-term roots. Their descendants live in the United Kingdom today. You will see how American innovation moved across the ocean. You will see how ordinary families helped build factories and towns that still stand. You will see the hidden link between U.S. ambition and British industrial power. Watch until the end. You will understand a forgotten connection between two nations that shaped the modern world. If you liked this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.